Key point 1. Knowing where to seek happiness. Many meaningful relationships suffer unfortunate defeats on the path to success. We still feel empty and disoriented after or during our race to the top. We start looking for meaning in what we do. If we don't find it, we continue to live imbalanced lives because we're too scared to try alternatives. Temporary respites are not solutions because they only remove the pain, but won't give us the long-term goals we desire. Wake-up calls awaken us abruptly to the existence of the gap between our fantasies and the reality of life. For instance, when a family member dies, we regret the missed moments while chasing success. We feel miserable thinking about the opportunities we'll never get back and the time we could spend building meaningful relationships. Then we realize there's no match between what we're doing and what matters to us. In the absence of wake-up calls, most people bury crucial life issues. They don't bother to look for the chronic cause. They use aspirin and Band-Aids to subdue the acute pain. Once they get temporary relief, they return to their habit of doing things that don't matter to them. However, by managing our time and prioritizing the essential things in our lives, we can make it easier to do things that will help us in the long run. In this summary, you will learn more about prioritizing the more important things over those that seem important but aren't in reality. As a result, you'll live a healthier, happier, and more fulfilling life and enhance your relationships tenfold. So strap in and prepare for a deep dive into the complexities and particularities of planning, productivity, and motivation. Key point 2. You have to differentiate between the compass and the clock. Most people struggle to prioritize things and focus on aspects of their life that truly matter. Two metaphorical tools guide us through life: the clock and the compass. The former represents our responsibilities, goals, commitments, schedules, and all other obligatory activities. The latter correlates with important things for us: values, principles, aims, and our lifestyle. We tend to focus too much on the clock, prioritizing it over the compass. This disbalance frequently leads to dissatisfaction, and we often fail to understand the reason for our unhappiness. Once we learn to manage the clock and the compass, we'll unlock the road to a more fulfilling life. It is that a meaningful life is not a matter of speed or efficiency. It is much more a matter of what you do and why you do it, than how fast you get it done. Stephen Covey. Failure to prioritize results is an all-encompassing pain. We feel like we aren't living our lives. We get stuck in a loop of responding to crises. Then we start to feel guilty about what we aren't doing. We feel like our lives don't have a purpose, and the feeling of missing out becomes our constant companion. Understanding and bridging the gap between the clock and the compass helps us realize the importance of time management and the skills required to become truly efficient. We can only learn to appreciate our goals, commitments, purpose, and values by keeping this balance. Far too many of us focus on the things that aren't important in life. We need to reassess our priorities. Bridging this gap requires accountability, as well as a thorough commitment to becoming better at optimizing our time. Moving from a familiar, long-used pattern can be tough. This act requires consciousness and motivation, but it also brings miraculous results. By keeping the balance, you'll soon realize that you can work smarter, not necessarily more challenging, and enjoy your downtime. Did you know? According to Retail Ritesh, a business management organization, 14% of people who set goals are 10 times more successful than those who don't. Key point 3. Time management is more technological than ever before. In search of gaining full power and control over their lives, many people resort to time management. Adopting the techniques of previous generations is a common practice. Many people seek efficiency and control by implementing tips and tricks used in the past. The first generation of time management was all about reminders. People went with the flow while tracking how they wanted to spend their time. Checklists and simple notes were in vogue. Almost everyone carried a list, so they remembered to do the necessary tasks. Uncompleted tasks were moved to the next day. Appointment books and calendars characterized the second generation. During this period, people focused on personal responsibility, efficiency, and achievement in setting goals and planning and scheduling future events and activities. People in the third generation spend time identifying their priorities and values. Planning and controlling are at the center of this method. People set aims of different lengths, short, medium, and long term, maximizing their achievements. Various organizers and planners characterize this generation. The need for the new generation came with the rising disbalance between what people desired and what they needed. People continued to make accompaniments, but they stopped feeling joy and satisfaction. The first three generations had to embrace their strengths while overcoming their weaknesses. We needed a revolution. Therefore, the current generation focuses on the paradigm that produces remarkable quality of life results. Utilization of technology and aiming toward a better home and work-life balance is critical. Time management in the past was primarily concerned with achieving as much efficiency as possible. Work was above all else. People neglected their social needs and all other aspects of their lives. Now, people recognize the detrimental effects of having no work-life balance. Therefore, current time management includes working, caring for mental health, spending time with people you enjoy, and doing household chores. The planning focuses on happiness as much as it does on efficiency. After all, productivity isn't possible without good mental health. First things first is about knowing and doing the tasks, activities, or something important to us, instead of merely responding to urgent issues. Key point 4. Allowing urgency to dominate our lives is a fast track to disaster. We tend to develop self-destructive coping mechanisms when we don't meet our needs. One of them is the addiction to urgency. This addiction gets its support from an excessive focus on time management techniques. To-do lists keep us in the cage of focusing on critical tasks first. That's what creates a disbalance between the clock and the compass. To further understand the issues of importance and urgency, let's look at the 4 quadrants of the time management matrix, a self-management tool explained below. This method consists of 4 quadrants that allow you to control your time. Quadrant 1 is directly concerned with the clock and the compass, urgency and importance. For example, cleaning a wound, catching a flight, or undergoing surgery, etc. We need to spend most of our time in Quadrant 1. We manage, produce, and use our experience to handle challenges and needs. Once we ignore these tasks, we get buried alive. Quadrant 2 is also known as the quadrant of personal leadership. It represents important activities that are not urgent. Here, we empower others, increase our skills, broaden our minds, and do long-term planning. We may ignore the tasks in this quadrant, which leads to detrimental consequences, burnout, and constant stress. Quadrant 3 includes only urgency. Another name for this quadrant is deception. Some people find the things here vital, calls, meetings, etc. They have a flare of urgency and conceal themselves as important, taking up our time but not bringing fulfillment. The time management matrix is a detailed roadmap that leads you toward achieving your goals and making better decisions. Quadrant 4 stands for unessential and trivial. This quadrant is also known as the quadrant of waste. Examples of activities are watching mindless series, playing addictive games for hours, and gossiping at work. Importance and urgency have a significant influence on our lives, but importance still holds dominance. If we learn to manage the importance paradigm, we will master the first 2 quadrants. Therefore, we will get more time to spend on planning, empowering, preparing, and preventing. Key point 5. How to cultivate ultimate freedom. What makes us different from other animals on the planet? For one, we have a thing called endowments. This quality allows us to make choices, provide responses, and implement change. All these aspects combine into a compass that gives us the power to align our lives with the true north. Moving in this direction is only possible with 4 key elements of the north. 1. Conscience provides us with guidance. With it, we find a connection to our hearts and the wisdom of our universe. Conscience gives us an understanding of our purpose and talents. 2. Self-awareness is our capacity to analyze our history, motives, actions, tendencies, habits, etc. It also enables us to stand apart from ourselves. Then we can increase the space between stimulus and response. 3. Creative imagination enables our power to visualize. With it, we gain the ability to deal with problems synergistically. This skill changes how we see ourselves and others for the better. We learn to apply principles effectively in various circumstances. 4. Independence gives us the ability to perform. Our choices are what makes us as people. Many factors, such as our genetics or environment, may influence us, but they neither determine nor control us. We hold the power to manage the way we react to things. We are in charge of forming our tendencies and qualities. Independence gives us freedom and shows us our true power. It enables us to break the labels and paradigms, beat challenges, and rewrite scripts. Establishing the essentials encourages us to grow in the right direction. Making our endowments the center of our attention will allow us to connect with the synergy in our lives. Constant self-assessment and effort enable us to grow as people. This routine also expands the fulfillment and satisfaction we feel. For instance, we can write our results in a personal journal and evaluate the root causes of those good or bad results. These habits will increase our self-awareness and help us understand what we should do to improve the quality of our lives. This way, we'll manage to create more fulfilling lives and realize our ambitions. We are free to choose our actions, but we are not free to choose the consequences of these actions. Stephen Covey. Key point 6. The distance between the stimulus and the response. The power of managing quadrant 2 is excellent. However, we can't predict everything in advance. Controlling every aspect of any event is also outside of our capabilities. We are setting ourselves up for frustration if our goals are to breeze through our to-do lists and scheduled appointments. There will be days so great that they will surpass any expectations. But there will also be days when we may get out of touch with the essential aspects of life. In such situations, putting the first things first will be impossible. Each new day or week is a unique experience, a territory we have never been to. When we get into unfamiliar territory, our ability to navigate effectively depends on the quality of our inner compass. There's a point when our personalities and competence go through a real test. This moment happens when we need to make an important decision. Ultimately, it is our choice whether to use our human endowments to make a conscious decision or allow any of those factors to control us. Our biggest goal is to improve our lives. To achieve it, we have to listen to our conscience. That's how we start living and following our principles. And a person living according to their beliefs feels more fulfilled with their life. The stimulus makes us want to make something. The response is what we do. However, between the two is a considerable amount of space that can easily cause us to get off course. Managing your time effectively allows you to stay on track and avoid procrastination. The process of quadrant 2 enables us to lengthen the space between the stimulus we receive and the response we produce. Doing this gives us enough time to think about our reactions and avoid making impulsive decisions. Our response then will reflect our values and principles. This technique also ensures that small events don't knock us off course without warning. When we use our conscience to make decisions, we might not get the highs from urgency addiction, pleasing others, or being perpetually busy. However, we will experience deep fulfillment and sleep, knowing that we did extraordinary things that day. Conclusion. Each day, visualize yourself living your mission statement. Review your statement regularly before you create to-do lists or schedule for a week. You need to live a principle-centered life if you want a quality life. That means setting goals, knowing what you want, and differentiating between the essential and not so important things. Once you start listening to and acting based on your conscience, you will be aligned with your true north and be able to put first things first. When we get addicted to essential and urgent decisions, we become dependent on adrenaline for a sense of energy and excitement. It makes us feel successful and valuable and validates that we are good at something. When necessary and urgent tasks are unavailable, we become drawn to critical tasks since we must stay busy to look prominent. We may feel pressure to constantly be busy, but this tendency turns into an excuse we use to avoid prioritizing the right things. We should drop this habit because it keeps us from living a fulfilled life. Focusing on the wrong things, we easily waste time and the relationships in our lives suffer. However, by managing your schedule correctly, you will have more time to spend with those close to you. Work on what you want to do and make small steps toward achieving your large-scale goals. In this case, you really can have it all. Try this. Write down a list of activities that you do per day and classify them into the 4 quadrants of the time management matrix. Discard all the tasks in quadrant 4 and reduce the ones in quadrant 3 to get enough time to spend on quadrants 1 and 2. And plan your week on a worksheet and sort your tasks based on urgency and importance to get a broader scope of how you spend your time.